Welcome, everybody, to the 43rd weekly episode of Marked Out Radio. I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And as promised, we have a lot of stuff happening this week. If you caught our teasers on social media, we have a couple episodes in a row where there's a lot of controversial things to be talking about in our hobby. But first, we both had some fun activities this week and some news to share from the hobby. So as promised, I did go to see The Used for their meet and greet on Monday night. It was the 21st. And you knew I was texting you pretty much the whole day that I was suffering that day. I just came back from vacation. I was in no mood to attend a meet and greet in New York City, but I was pretty pumped about how the meet and greet was organized. So the day before, I received an email because this is becoming a new pattern. When you buy a meet and greet for a concert, you're often buying them 6, 8, 10 months in advance. And they're not really clear as to what they include. It just says VIP meet and greet. And you don't really know. And you don't really know how it's going to work. And so I got an email the day before-ish that laid out how it was going to work. And I copied and pasted the email to you. I was so surprised and so happy with how it was going to be.
Yeah, it was nice to see that they were signing merchandise. I know you said you were expecting a cattle call that was not going to really include that.
Yeah, and so typically a lot of these things you go, you take a photo, you get pre-signed merch in a bag, and that's it. So it was actually more than it was not the day before; it was a couple days in advance, because I had they said that they would sign 2 items, one of which was a poster that was being provided at the show, which was actually one of those I forget what the term of it is. It basically it looks like a vinyl record, but it's a poster of that size. It's a
cardboard. What you sell that one for?
I didn't sell anything yet. I actually haven't sold anything yet. But they were going to sell one personal item. And so I jumped on Amazon because it was too late for eBay. I had to find something on Amazon Prime to find a vinyl for them, which I way overpaid for. But that's how it goes. To get signed. And of course, because band lineups change as they do, only 2 of the 4 members. It was actually really funny. This is one of those things that, again, separates people in the hobby from those who are not in the hobby. So there was a guy next to me in line who also had a pretty rare vinyl. And now I know, because I'm insane, that only 2 of the 4 guys who were at this signing were band members who were on this record, right? Band members change over time. Some get fired, some quit, some die. And no one died in this band. But anyway, the lineup that I saw was only a half, basically the original lineup, and half was a new lineup. And so I don't get, as a general rule, people on original records with new members who didn't play on that record. I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm pretty strict about it.
No, when I met the Whaler, I made sure to get a Marley record that he was actually on. So I subscribed to that thinking as well.
So it's funny because the guy next to me, he had his original record, and that original vinyl he had was worth more than $100 by, unsigned. And I saw him get all 4 guys on it, and I just kind of had that shiver go up my spine.
He probably had a black Sharpie too, right?
Yeah, of course. And actually, so I brought my red Posca with me, and I held it because, of course, the first guy up was one of the ones who was not on the record. So he's like, "Well, do you have an extra for me to sign?" And I went, "Nope, I'm good." I kind of held it to my side, and I kind of felt bad. And so the second guy was on the record, and so I gave him the Posca. I said, "Do you mind using this one?" He's like, "Oh, this is so much better than a Sharpie." They always, when you have someone like in a band or someone who's not used to signing a ton with specialty markers, and you give them a specialty marker, I've found they often pop for it. I've had people pop for Decos and Poscas and stuff because they're so used to signing with dead Sharpies that anyway. And so, yeah, I got the 2 of the 4 original band members, Jeff Howard and Burt McCracken, to sign my record, In Love and Death. This is their second full-length record. I did get it wasn't an original pressing because I couldn't have that on Amazon, but I bought some kind of limited pressing. I took care of that. Then I had all 4 sign the poster, which was even still I got all 4 to sign the poster. It is what it is. Then the way they did it was they had everyone go through, all the VIPs go through the first round for the autographs, then kind of loop around for the photo ops. So I have to say, this VIP session was run perfectly. They told us to be there at 5:30 and the doors would be at 6. I got there 5:30 on the nose. They put us in a little sequestered little space. Maybe there were 40 of us, 45-ish. At 6 on the nose, they let us inside. and started the autograph line very promptly. We looped around, and then we did the photo ops second. The photo ops were by that Sound Rink is the VIP company that does them. And they said, oh, they'll be up to 72 hours. It'll take for the photo ops to be up. My photo op was uploaded within a couple hours. So it wasn't there was no time wasted whatsoever.
That's always great.
It was the easiest. It was the easiest VIP I've ever done. They were on time. They were fast. They were efficient. The band members were personable. It was as good as it could possibly get for that type of thing. Funny thing though is that because it's a New York City show and because it was a work night, so the VIP meet and greet was done by like 6:45, 7 o'clock. Now I'm looking at my watch. And I see that the concert doesn't start until 8, and that's the opener. And the Used doesn't get on until after 9, and it's only like 6:45, so maybe 7 o'clock. And so I made the executive decision to actually just leave and not stay for the concert. I was standing there, and I'm like, I really wanted to see them because it's been a couple of years, but I was standing there and I was exhausted, having just gotten back from my vacation. And I was like, do I really want to go into work tomorrow an absolute mess? When I know if I go home now, I can be home by 9 and then just pass out. And that is exactly what I did.
And like the whole time you were like getting ready for this, I was like chuckling to myself, and you're like picking which night you want to go, which album you'd rather hear. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you're not staying for this. And if you do stay for this, you're going to be miserable. And the only song you're going to want to hear is the last one, because that means the concert's over. Like you knew you just really wanted the meet and greet, but
it's unfortunate because if this was on a Friday night, it would be a no-brainer. I mean, Irving Plaza is a sick venue. It's an awesome venue.
You still wouldn't have been happy. Don't lie to yourself or the listeners.
I've been to play. It is the problem is getting older, man. It's just hard. It's hard to stand for these things all night and to stand there all night long.
That's fair.
I know I sound miserable, but I ended up having a great time, and it was worth the money. The Used is super cool. I mean, it's funny like seeing these bands now up close with meet and greets because I did Saves the Day last year. Now the Used, and these are bands that I was listening to when I was in my early 20s, and they're about the same age that I am, give or take a couple years, and just was seeing we're all getting older together in a weird way. It's just it's kind of hard to process this experience that I'm sort of you're a 20-year-old listening to a 20-year-old, now you're a 40-year-old listening to a 40-year-old, and I would just wonder if the same is going to be true when I'm 70. I don't know, but anyway, it was a great time.
Did they also cancel the concert to go back to the hotel and sleep?
They did not, but I did text one of my friends because he's like, how did Bert look? Because, the lead singer of the Used, Bert McCracken, had a significant history of like substance abuse and things like that. And, I pretty much responded, I said, he pretty much looks like any other 45-year-old guy, just he has tattoos on his face. Just kind of just true, that, as people get older, they all kind of converge. I shouldn't say everyone, but most people kind of converge as far as how they are. So in any case, it was a good time. They were about as nice as could possibly be. My record looks sick, signed in Red Posca. You advised me against Red Posca, and I was nervous. That thing took forever to dry, forever on that record. But once it did, it looks sick. It looks great. And I knew I wasn't going to be happy with the Sharpie. I was not going to be happy. I just wouldn't. And then this is again because this is part of me in this hobby is like having a unique item like that. When I was holding my record while it was drying, and people were kind of walking by doing that looky-loo, like craning their necks to look at mine because I had the coolest item. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that part of it, as demented as that sounds, that is one of the reasons why I do this hobby, because I have the best item.
Yes. And also you can never, the Red Posca was definitely a better call over their dead black Sharpie that they had probably just used to sign some 50-year-olds cleavage, like right before you got up to them.
Absolutely.
And here's a slightly unethical pro tip. I'm not going to say I've ever done this because I'm only a pillar of ethics. But when you fall into that hole that you have to resort to Amazon Prime, which is a very, very dark one to go down, what I've heard people do, you can buy something on eBay that's appropriately priced and in a equal condition, and you just return that one to Amazon.
So believe it or not, the thought had crossed my mind, but the item that I bought was numbered.
Ooh, I mean,
so there's no way to do that.
You could just no sell and be like, that's the number you got, but that's getting a little darker than you.
At the end of the day, it wasn't that much more money. It is what it is. You just kind of deal with it. So I dealt with it, and it's fine. It looks great. It will look great in a box in the bottom of my closet, never to see the light of day again.
Just make sure no mildew gets on it.
Nah, well, it's not my parents' basement is where the mildew is, but in my closet there is none. Hopefully. Anyway, that's it. That's it for the used. So you had a couple of events, and some of these are funnier than others.
Yes, I spent back-to-back days at dispensaries. And for people that don't know me, I am not a dispensary guy. I don't even drink caffeine, so like this entire thing it was not my scene. But day one of my Cheech and Chong dispensary tour brought me to the Upper East Side for the last original member of G Unit that I needed, Tony Yayo.
So how was that? How was the whole experience?
Well, to start with, I get into the city. I met friend of the show, Bobby Apt, who has joined me on a lot of these excursions. And it's always a good time. We grabbed some pizza. It was the last Friday in Lent, so I couldn't eat any meat. I know you're laughing at me now, silently. But I had my appropriate slices of pizza. We walked to the dispensary. And as I reached the door, me not being a dispensary guy, I realized I forgot my wallet, which is like that little magnetic wallet I have on my phone.
Right.
So I had no ID, which
how do you get around with no ID?
Quite well. I roam around a lot without my ID, which my wife doesn't like. Since she's in like the healthcare industry, she's like always telling me that if I'm like unconscious, that it's not good and that they will be able to know who I am. But I mean, I will assume if someone finds me unconscious, they're probably a Marked Out Radio listener because I mean, who isn't? And they would know who I was. But anyway, so I had no ID. So I got to the door, and I sort of found out. I realized I had no ID in front of the security guy, and I'm saying words I won't say now because then you have to bleep it. And I said to the guy, "Listen, I'm here for Yayo. I'm not buying anything." And he's like, "I don't care. You're good." And I went in, and figuring that like shifts can change, I called my wife, and she sent me pictures of the back and the front of my ID, figuring I don't know how that was Bobby's idea. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I don't know how helpful this will be, but who knows? So we wait online. We were the first ones. We got there around. It started at 4. We got there, I think, at 2:30, and we were the first ones, as you'd expect. And the line grew a little bit. The check-in time, I believe, was 3 or 3:30. And once the check-in time hit, people started showing up because this was not an event with a lot of pros. It was more like just, I guess, the dispensary crowd, the Tony Yayo crowd, if there is one. And, of course, they listen to what the instructions are told. Like the people that are out of their minds like me and the people around me, the few people around me, we come earlier. The event was planned to start at 4 o'clock. Yayo pulled up at like 4:10, which that's early on rapper time.
I mean, that's really almost the day before. Yeah.
Yeah. So he pulls up in his cyber truck. He found parking right on the block, which is always nice. He walked up the line, which this doesn't happen that often. He dapped everyone up. He said hello to everyone on his way into the store. All nice and smooth. He walks in. They begin moving the line into the store. And of course, they change shifts. And the guy that was cool and really didn't care that much is off to another part of the store. And you have a young, like 20-something-year-old girl. And she wasn't one of the young 20-something-year-old girls you want to find on these situations that don't care. She was one that actually wanted to do a good job. So she, of course, explains to me how she can't let me in without the physical ID. And then I show her the pictures. And she's still like, well, I need the physical ID. And then one of the I think it was, I can't remember if it was Bobby or one of the coworkers, but one of them's like, just scan the picture. It's the same thing. Which, I mean, I'm sure in terms of legality, it's not. But she's like, sure, okay. So she scanned my picture, and I was in.
So it worked. The scan of the picture worked.
I'm convinced she scanned my card because she knew me from Marked Out Radio. That's definitely why.
I mean, she didn't want the legions of Marked Out maniacs
Exactly.
down the door.
We're already going after China. Like, we can't go after the dispensary too. So, I mean, there we go. So she let me in. All was good. Yayo was cool. I had a record that I bought from eBay, which was actually a ballsy move because it was like the same week. So I bought it from eBay. It came the day before. Yeah, a nice orange deco on it. It looks sick. And yeah, I've completed now the original 3 of G Unit. I just need to find Young Buck in the game somewhere, but I'm not holding my breath.
So, it was pretty cheap too, the whole thing with Yayo.
Yeah, he was legit, like, cheaper than like indie talent, like at a wrestling convention. He was very cheap, which starts getting my wheels turning. If there's some business we could swing with Yayo in the future.
Listen,
we'll talk about that.
I'm always of the belief that there's business to be done with these guys, but as it's happened before, where you've reached out to some rappers whose prices are relatively low, and yet they just don't answer.
Yeah, listen, one day, and I'm not going to say it now because I think we still have. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up until the guy is not with us anymore. But my father-in-law is like involved in like music, and he knows different people. And there was an icon of hip hop that like we wanted to bring out publicly or privately if we couldn't get publicly to happen. And like this is like, they call each other on birthdays. Like they're pretty tight. And the poor guy's had some health issues, and he's not really in the mood to do anything. But once it's completely locked in that it's not happening, we'll really delve into it because it's fascinating. But a lot of these people like that you would think there's business to be done, it's hard to really get them to really understand what's going on and like want to do it. So
yeah, they don't want to leave the house.
Yeah, but that's like a goal of mine. I want to get into like hip hop, but neither here nor there. That was day 1 of me at the dispensary.
So then what about day 2?
Day 2 was New York Knicks legend Carmelo Anthony. He has a line of marijuana called Stay Mellow. I sounded kind of narky, didn't I?
A line of marijuana.
Should I have gone with reefer?
I guess there's no way to say that without it being really funny. Just the phrasing is just ridiculous. A product line of sorts. Yeah, I mean.
There we go. Okay.
No, because I was thinking about this. What would you think? Because it's not like Mello is out there doing cons and stuff. What do you think a Mello combo is worth?
Well, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember the roundabout. He was at Fanatics Fest last year on Friday. He was one of those names I was swinging my fist into the heavens that I couldn't go. His photo op was definitely north of 250. I think it was south of 350. It was in like that 280, 290 range. And I think the graph was around the same. So I think on Fanatics pricing, he was around a $500 combo on the moderate side. I think it was actually probably more closer to $600 with the fees.
So for you, what did you have to buy at the? I mean, you know what? I know the answer to this. Tell the story of the dispensary because this whole saga was keeping me very entertained all day as it was going. It was literally an all day saga.
It was wild. It was at this. It's a dispensary on Long Island. There's 2 of them. And don't ask me how or why, but I ended up having a conversation with someone at work about one of these dispensaries like a week prior to this. Like someone I probably shouldn't have been having a conversation like this with, like a very higher up person. I'm not going to name any names. And I was explaining to them about the meet and greets at these dispensaries. And again, don't ask me why this even came up. I don't know how this conversation started. But this is like a big, big, big dispensary on Long Island. There are 2 locations. And for this one, you had to spend $100 in product. Again, as someone who does not partake in this product, as I'm sure you could tell by how I described what I was doing, I certainly didn't sound like a natural. I want to buy the cheapest 2. You basically needed to equal $100. So Bobby Apt got there before I did. I told him just basically, please buy me the cheapest thing you can do that will qualify me for the meet and greet. He did. I had 2 boxes. I didn't even open them. 2 boxes of whatever it was. I don't want to admit to anything I'm not licensed to do, but I gave Bobby Apt what I had, and I received something back that was not in full. So
you're making it sound way worse than it is.
Yes, whatever. So I got rid of it. It cost me less money than it would have. Very nice. And we began waiting. And let me tell you, this was actually the greatest event ever on one hand. You had a food truck. And when you see food trucks, what do you normally think? What do you expect?
What do you mean? Having to pay for it?
Well, yeah, but they're also pricey. So, I mean, I wasn't looking to really spend big at this food. I spent, $100 at the dispensary. So I was not planning on going to the food truck. I see the food truck and I open up my app for Burger King, which was next door. So I fill my cart. I had like a nice $8 order in there. I was about to hit submit when someone tells us the food truck is free, which that doesn't happen often at these events.
I would say I've never heard of this.
Yeah, so I force closed my app. I ran to get the free food. I had my free. Luckily, I would have been pissed if I made that food order. So I ate for free. They started giving out T-shirts. They were giving out different like things from like the line, like grinders and different stuff that I just kept giving to Bobby because I didn't want it. So I'm like, here you go. We're waiting. They bring us inside by around. It was supposed to start at 1
noon. You said you said noon.
Noon. Okay, noon. It was supposed to start at noon. So they brought us inside around 11. And when I called the day before, they were pretty emphatic that he would only sign the box of, which I didn't want that, and that was it. He wouldn't sign merch. So I pull up. Foolishly, I wasn't prepared, but I pull up, and what do I see? Basically everyone with merch. It was shocking. Usually you see a couple, but this was a lot. I would say 75% had merch. Some ranged from the adult with their childhood jersey that was falling apart. Some were people with like giant cardboard like boards with like 6 jerseys taped onto them. It ran the gambit. You saw everything. So I made the executive decision to leave the line, run to Walmart, drive to Walmart, and then run from the parking lot and buy the best like basketball I could find, which cost me $10, so it wasn't very good, and then hightail it back to the store.
All right. I mean, what was it? One of those just cheap rubber balls, basically?
Yeah, Wilson NBA ball. It was just a regular like rubber vinyl, like full size ball, whatever. It's fine. So, like in hindsight, I had a game ball signed by Amari that I wish I would have brought. I could have got Melo on the other like little
panel
section of it. Panel, yeah, and that would have been really really sick. But whatever, I didn't. So 12 o'clock comes around and nothing. 1 o'clock comes around and nothing. And the store then starts making these weird, like, false promises of, oh, well, he pulled up. He's in the parking lot. He's coming in any minute. And they start, like prepping the line. Don't ask him for autographs. He's going to just walk in. He's going to sit right down. Then we're going to start. And 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, nothing. It goes on. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
You're telling me I am dying. I'm like, he's not coming. I'm like totally egging you on to the...
By 3 o'clock, now, I didn't even mention this, Ira joined us. So Ira's going nuts. Ira's standing there. Ira's got WrestleMania coming up. Ira's got weed. Ira was going to enjoy WrestleMania in a way he's never enjoyed WrestleMania before. He was actually getting excited.
So at what point do they start offering refunds? Because you told me
they don't offer refunds. People, I guess, just start asking for them. And we see a couple people go in with their stuff, receipt in hand. We sort of watch through the doors in the little vestibule to see what's going to happen. And they come back happy with the product, and they inform us. Which I guess if I was a user of this stuff, I would have understood this. But it made sense. They can't take the product back once you have it. It could be tampered with. It could be whatever. For health reasons, they can't take it back. So the people that got refunds got to keep the $100 in product. They just got their money back as well. So I mean,
they were not allowed to theoretically meet Melo should he arrive.
Yes. So after about 5 or 6 people get the refund, Ira finally says, "Well, first he announced to the line that if Melo was much later, he wouldn't make it in time to play in tonight's game."
Awkward.
Which made me fall over laughing. I'm like, he hasn't played in the game in like years. And then somebody on the line yelled, like, if you don't even know what he's doing, why are you here? But he doesn't understand, appeasing the combo gods, and that, sometimes you meet people you don't know because that's normal. Right. Yeah. So Ira gets his refund. Ira leaves with his product to go enjoy WrestleMania. And humorously enough, as Ira walks out of the store, like security starts running. So like me and Bobby start laughing, like, oh my God, he's here. And Ira's going to like watch him walk in. And he can't meet him because he did the return. But he wasn't here. That was like, I think, the other fake. Then it was another thing. Then they said again, oh, he's in the car. We're waiting for him to come in. And more time left. At this point, by around I would say 3:30 to 4 o'clock, a lot of people started getting their refunds. Probably, I would say close to 75 to 100. It was a lot of people coming and going with their refunds. So you start thinking about the money they're losing. It's pretty significant, even with the markup, that I'm sure they're doing. And finally, at a certain point, we get a different answer, and the guy kind of laid his cards on the table. He didn't say he lied about the car thing, but I mean, clearly he did. And they said how Melo was definitely on the way now. They spoke to the assistant, and he was coming, and he was apparently going to blow off the Knicks game 1 with the Pistons to watch, not to watch, to complete the line and do right by the fans. So finally, right around 5 o'clock, a mere 5 hours late, we see Melo come in the back door. He walks in. Melo didn't apologize in any way. He didn't he didn't do any sort of like a sorrowful head nod or anything. He just sat down and acted like he was on time. The people the people at the store were very apologetic. And I mean, the whole thing was crazy. We had people on the line around us. Like, there was one point, and only if you've endured something like this can you understand. There was a guy that tried to cut the line. Me personally, I didn't care. He wasn't cutting me. I knew he wasn't cutting me. He was trying to cut like number 6 online. I was number 3 online. So it's like, I didn't care. But the line turned hostile. They were yelling at him. One guy reported him to the security. It was a whole thing. They took him out of the store. Then somehow they let him rejoin our little inside group, but on the back end. And let me tell you, we were there long enough where we saw a line cut guy turned complete babyface. He joined the crew. He was letting people use his phone charger. He apologized to Bobby. They bro hugged it out, and all was good. I looked at Bobby. I'm like, we've been here long when we've seen this kind of a turn. It was a complete 180. But yeah, Melo came in. It was good. I didn't have a deco on me. It still kind of bothers me. He hit it in Sharpie. But I mean, it looks fine. And Sharpie on these types of balls, it doesn't bleed. It doesn't really fade unless the sun's roasting on it. It's fine. I will die. My kid will throw it out. I'm sure the signature will look close to the same, unless the balls degrade like latex masks. I don't think I want to know the answer to that. They probably do, though. But in any case, all was good. Photo op was taken. Melo was nice. And I got a free combo that I spent $50 out of pocket on, and 5 hours of just brutal suffering.
So yeah. I mean, I was the whole time I was egging you on. He's not going to show up and all this other stuff. I'm actually surprised that he did, but it really, you got to wonder what kind of life a person lives to be able to show up somewhere 5 hours late and just be sort of either be oblivious towards it or to just not care. I don't know. I all I know is I want to be that person. I can't be that person, but I do want to be that person.
No, I mean, I would have been mortified if I knew these people were waiting for me like that. But I'm not Melo, I guess.
Yeah, so those are the only reports we're going to have for this week. I know a lot of people sent in reports for WrestleCon, a lot of people for WWE World, for WrestleMania, from Chiller Theater. So we're gonna hit those next week because we have so many other things to talk about this week. We still have a bunch of con-related and signing-related news before we even get to our main story this week. So you had sent me information. Tom Brady is doing another private signing with Fanatics. So there are a lot of people who noticed that Tom Brady is signed to appear at Fanatics Fest, but he doesn't do any autographs in person. And a lot of people are complaining about that, but maybe this will shine a little bit of light on as to why. So Tom Brady's, his prices for signing privately, so which means public prices will be even higher. His prices are it's a $2,000 base price. That is the cheapest item you can get is $19.99 plus fees. If you want to get equipment, it's $3,000. If you want to get a ticket stub signed, who even has a ticket stub these days? But anyway, that's $4,000. And there's a limited menu of inscriptions that are available for the low price of $2,000 each.
I assume your painter's tape trick wouldn't work.
Probably not. And so you're looking at prices like that. And it's very clear they're not going to book out time for him to sign at Fanatics Fest because that's not the crowd they're drawing in anyway.
But listen, I absolutely love the people and I'm going to call them the people rather than the idiots because I think it's nicer to call them the people. But all the people out there that like post these screenshots and they're like, this is why I got out of autographs. It's like, no, it's not. You were never buying Tom Brady. Like, stop. The reason you got out of autographs is because Jake the Snake added $30 onto his autograph fee. Like, these people are not buying $2,000 autographs or $1,500 autographs. Like, this is not why you got out of autographs.
It is funny, though, because in the grand scheme of things, I don't think Tom Brady is worth $2,000 for an 8x10. I just don't. I don't think as great as he is as a player. I mean, he's an all-time, football legend. That being said, you can get like John F. Kennedy for that price. You know what I'm saying? Like there's such a you can get Neil Armstrong for that price. There's such a huge disconnect between the prices that are being charged and the historical value. He's still just an athlete. His autographs are not rare. I'm not saying they're common, but they're out there. He has done private signings. Obviously, they're artificially constraining supply by charging so much. But this is, I am somewhat sympathetic to the complaint that this is just an abusive cash grab. But I guess the argument is if you don't want to pay it, don't pay it, and that is a very fair argument. And I don't think there's anyone who's like, oh my God, I must spend my last $2,000 on this. That just seems crazy to me.
But here's the deal for me. I view this Tom Brady being $2,000 is not really going to impact Dan Marino's pricing or Cal Ripken's pricing. Like, this is a tier of athlete all his own. Like, you have Tom Brady. Like, if LeBron ever does something, this will impact LeBron's pricing. If, Jordan, like, it's that tier of star. And there's a certain collector, certain tax bracket that can do that. And I'm sure if you are of that tax bracket, if you're a sports fan or a Patriots fan, and you have money that you're not really sweating $2,000 or anything like that, you're happy for the opportunity, I guess.
So where's the analogous baseball player here? I mean, you can get a Ruth 8x10 cheaper than this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
There is none. Who the best ball players of all time? Ruth, Mantle, whatever. Who's the best, the highest profile baseball player right now today? Trout, maybe.
Yeah.
Trout's a third of this price, less than a third, $400, $500 for Trout. So you're talking about we're nowhere near this amount.
Well, I think what you would look at, but I mean, he also isn't near this amount. Would probably be Jeter as far as like he's not active. But I mean, as someone that's sort of in that tier where he's not just sitting at the local regional sports show. Yeah,
still a fraction. He's a fraction, and I don't even know if I would put Jeter in the same class. But or I mean, you can get Muhammad Ali for a fraction of this price. You know what I'm saying? Like I think this is just it's way disproportionate.
Yes. At the same time, though, I mean, that doesn't say you can still get Muhammad Ali for this price. I don't think this is going to raise Muhammad Ali's pricing or Trout's pricing. If you are not one of those people that want Brady, then, as I think you said before, don't get him. Most people won't. I suppose it comes down to with Brady that to get him to do this is what the pricing necessitates. He's not doing this for the fee that they could charge a Trout price. And I think...
That's it. That's as much as you can say. It's interesting to think about, but there's really it is. I agree with you to the extent that it's a sort of separate class from even what is mainstream. Like Trout is mainstream, Jeter is mainstream almost compared to something like this.
And all I could think with Trout, and I don't want to go down a sports rabbit hole. I could hear Greg 2600's like blood boiling right now.
Respect,
but yes. Trout is not a champion. He's honestly, if anything, he's the opposite. He's someone who never even reaches the playoffs, and when he does, nothing really happens. I assume Brady, with all the greatness and the rings, that's why Jeter gets in that sort of like he's not up there to that level, but he's as far as baseball goes, he's probably one of the higher tier. That's the difference. Trout and the ones that you're talking about, even a Griffey, like they don't have that. They don't have the hardware. Brady is in that class with a Jordan. Shaq isn't in that class, which I would argue he has the hardware and the accomplishments where he could be. So that there's definitely some valid debates to have. Why Brady and why not? If Kobe was alive, I think he would have been in that Brady class if he wanted to. But yeah, it's a whole different thing for a whole different collector. And I'm not going to say this is why I changed anything because I wasn't doing it anyway. I don't have $2,000 for this.
So yeah, there's no interest there. It's just an interesting thing to talk about in the hobby. You had sent me an advertisement for Fan Expo Boston. So Fan Expo Boston is doing something that's pretty interesting. They're advertising a Supernatural reunion, which is huge because Supernatural had been exclusive to Creation for basically forever. And even when like Jensen Ackles did RICC, not Jensen Ackles, I'm sorry.
Jared Padalecki.
I said the wrong name. Jared Padalecki did RICC. They didn't advertise Supernatural at all. Well, here Fan Expo is fully advertising Supernatural without Jensen Ackles and without Misha Collins. And so not Misha Collins. What's his name?
No, it is Misha Collins.
Misha Collins, yeah. I don't know why I doubted myself there. And so it's interesting I think the reason is because Misha and Jensen are still exclusive to Creation in the US. So this is Fan Expo giving it a shot at a Creation property, and we'll see. I think it'll do well. I mean, I think that that there's still life in that series. I'm curious how it does.
Yeah, I think there's definitely life in that series. I think that's probably one of those series that at some point they're going to reboot in some way. Because I mean, these guys aren't setting the world ablaze. They have little projects going on, but it's nothing huge. I mean, I think that there's going to be life in that project for years to come. And it just sort of makes me laugh that Jensen and Misha are still presumably locked into Creation exclusively, because I feel like there'd be a lot more money to be made getting to go around like the other guys and bring this tour on the road. But, it is what it is. There's a couple people on this reunion I'd like Mark Pellegrino. I never got Lucifer, but I don't really see Boston in the cards for us, at least as it's configured right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is not something that's going to draw me in, but it's certainly an interesting... an interesting tactic for Fan Expo to take. So I'm interested in it. So this next one caught your eye. John Cryer was announced for Rhode Island, and I know it means nothing to me, but for you, this is a big deal.
I actually have John Cryer. I was going up for one of the events at Sirius, and I saw him. He was coming down the elevator as I was about to go up the elevator, and of course, being me, I chased him. I left the security checkpoint, and I ran after him to get a selfie, which he was happy to do. And then the security, they wanted to kill me because they had to run me back through the security, wand me again, and they didn't look pleased, but whatever. So I have Cryer. I don't think I would get him again. Actually, I'd probably do an autograph. But my hope and my goal here would be that they would book Charlie Sheen, who is one of those white whales for me that there was one time he was booked in Pennsylvania, and I had a vacation planned with my wife, so clearly I wasn't going to cancel that to go to do Charlie. And then there was one time he did a sports show in New Jersey that I didn't see or hear until after the fact, which that's completely on me for being oblivious, I guess, but that annoyed me. So I'm hoping they go for a 2.5 Men reunion, but I see since they announced Cryer, they've announced Molly Ringwald. And it looks like they're going for the Pretty in Pink reunion. So they could do 2 reunions, but I don't know. We'll see.
And then finally, there was a little bit of an outcry recently. So I guess it was through through a Broadway show. I wasn't actually sure what the event was, but there was some kind of VIP meet and greet event with Hugh Jackman.
Hugh is doing a one-man show at Radio City Music Hall. It's not it's not a full-on a Broadway show in the sense he does it nightly, but he has, I don't know, he has 12.5 dates, maybe something like that. He has a cluster of dates, and people. I've been following this for a little while. You and I both have Hugh Jackmans. I had no temptation, I would have if I didn't have him. But I was following along, and people were complaining how the meet and greets, he wasn't really hitting any merch. But then people were getting him outside at the rails. And you had people complaining, why are you signing for free outside? But then the people that pay $1,000 are not getting you inside to sign their stuff. And up until that point, it seemed kind of innocent. You got your photo op, you got this pre-signed poster. They didn't do merch, whatever. But then what came out about those pre-signed posters?
So yes, someone on Rack, I guess, did a signature study, started collecting samples of the pre-signed posters, and what they discovered, and it still has not confirmed yet, they're either auto pen or preprint. They're not authentic autographs. So this is the part that really is troubling. The cost of this meet and greet was $1,000. So it was not cheap. It was $1,000, and you were promised very explicitly You're promised a pre-signed poster, an autographed poster as it was advertised, and a photo op with Hugh Jackman. And, most of the people who do these kinds of $1,000 meet and greets in New York City, these are not your hobby people. No. These are your super fans. And so they're never going to even really realize or know that they've had a fake autograph given to them for their $1,000. And so there's something really off-putting. There's something really foul about it. So yeah, if you have if you are someone who paid $1,000 for that meet and greet with Hugh Jackman, I would recommend a chargeback with your credit card company because the posters are fake.
Yeah, it's really not cool. Like you said, this is the average person that bought that ticket. I don't think there's very many on rack. So you're not seeing this. And I know people were sort of dissecting the language on this listing because, language matters. And they were trying to ascertain if they actually promised something hand-signed or, individually signed or anything like that. If it being auto pen or preprint, if that would still sort of satisfy the loosest promise that was made by the event organizer. I agree with you. If I bought that, I'm 100% trying a chargeback. I mean, if people were able to get the credit card representatives to understand an invalid Scarlett Johansson photo op was grounds for a chargeback, this is a slam dunk. The autograph is fake. It's not an authentic autograph. Like, this is something that I wouldn't even be confused as to how you'd make them understand this. This is basic. So absolutely stick it to the organizer if you can. Like, that's awful. And then someone made the point, which to me is the most, honestly, I think the most insidious of all, which is Hugh is not even a reluctant signer. He was signing merch outside at the rails. Like, he always signs. Like, why of all people? This was this was some thing with Samuel L. Jackson or Bill Murray or something. You would say, well, I understand maybe for the show organizer he refused. But you're telling me Hugh wouldn't have done this legitimately? I can't imagine. Like,
they just wanted to streamline production.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. It's laziness. It's just a lack of regard. It's feeling like you're bulletproof, which is what's going on a lot in this hobby. And that's, what we have coming up in a little bit. That's part of it. Like, these people feel as though they live in this ivory tower somewhere that they are just removed from being able to be called on their crap. And it's not right because $1,000 is a lot of money. And you have people that are going to have this on their wall until they're old and gray. They're going to be leaving it to relatives as a prized possession. And we've all sort of joked about what happens with these things when we die. But, still, it's a prized possession people paid handsomely for, and it's junk. And that's not right.
I got this from Hugh Jackman myself. Yeah. And that's why it's so insidious. It's not from a third-party vendor. It's not from a China eBay vendor. It's from the artist directly. And so for them for the artist directly to rip off their most devoted fans is particularly vile. Yes. So if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. All links are in the show notes on Facebook and Substack. If you want your event, product, or brand advertised on episodes of Marked Out Radio, reach out to us today at markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com. Also, please subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast and leave a rating or review. You can leave a rating or review on Apple Podcast. You can leave a rating on Spotify, or you can leave a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment on YouTube. All engagement is welcome. So that brings us to the point of this show, the main event, or in a manner of speaking. So this has been a conversation between us for a long time. The idea of forged autographs being sold in our hobby. And, you and I have debated this privately and amongst friends and everything for months and months and years, really, about what can be done and what ought to be done in public. That you and I have had a lot of the same kind of arguments about how, well, if no one speaks up, if no one says the names of these forgers out loud, then aren't we allowing them to sort of act with impunity and to take advantage of people with impunity? And doesn't their existence degrade the existence of all of us? And we've gone back and forth about the merits of naming and shaming, the merits of calling things out. We both had kind of landed on the side of it's just not worth naming and shaming And then in the past few weeks, our attitudes have changed. And so I know why my attitude has changed, but can you walk through a little bit what you've encountered in the past few weeks that has really shifted your view on this?
Okay. Yeah, as I've been posting in the group on Facebook, it's gotten to a point now where it's too prevalent, it's too sophisticated. And as I said, I was saying to like once this stuff started coming out, and basically the first thread actually was our friend, who I'm not going to name because honestly he's not deserving of the publicity to be named, but the guy that was bragging about selling the Ric Flairs for $35. And when I pointed that out on the podcast, I got tipped off by a couple of vendors and promoters and stuff privately about this whole can of worms involving that. And I said to one of them, I forget who, because I had so many conversations, I said it's getting to a point with all of this stuff that, in my opinion, to stay quiet with our platform that we have is basically putting us being, complicit in the scam ourselves. Like, how are we just going to keep quiet and watch this happen? And I have no desire. I sell, everything we do is authentic. We're not profiting from selling fakes. Like, why am I going to be pulled? Why am I going to keep my mouth shut? For what reason? Like, I don't understand why.
Yeah. So there are two. I mean, there's lots of different, I guess, sectors of the fake autograph market. So in the coming weeks, we're going to talk about pretty much as many as we can find. For this episode, we're going to talk about two of them. One of them is going to be more controversial than the other. So I guess we'll start with the more controversial one first. And this is something that it really was directly spurred by that argument you got into on Facebook about someone who was claiming they can sell Ric Flair autographs for $35 or $40. Now, just so we understand, the reason why we are so adamant that you can't actually sell Ric Flair autographs for $35 or $40 and make a profit is because we know the current wholesale price of Ric Flair. We know it. We've paid it. It's public knowledge. Ric Flair is not one of those people where you can pay him X number of dollars and say, I want you to sign for 3 hours straight. That's not how it works. Ric Flair has very, very specific per item pricing. There are retail prices you pay when he's brought to a convention. Then there are also wholesale prices that you pay if you do them in bulk. And obviously, the more items you get, you can scale up. So those prices do decrease, but there is a floor to how much they can decrease to. And without revealing, Fitterman, his agent's trade secrets, a retailer cannot sell Ric Flair items for $35 and make a profit. No. I'm stating that with 100% certainty. I'm going to say it again to be very clear. A retailer cannot sell Ric Flair items for $35 and make a profit. And that's taking into consideration the fees of running a business, paying taxes, you're paying for prints, paying for items, paying for mailers, and all those kinds of things. Okay, everything gets factored in. So don't come at me when you think you know his price. There's more that goes into the selling of a retail product than its wholesale price.
Well, let's not forget the JSA fee. And not even the gimmick JSA fee that the public pays, like the actual fee that that we pay. Like that's
so right. So just in case people don't realize this, they don't know this. So JSA charges fees to the public, but when you have an account with them and when you do volume with them, you pay different amounts. And so, but JSA has an absolute bottom to that amount. So their absolute bottom amount per item, that's if you're getting over 1,000 items done at a time, was it $3 and change an item, right?
Yeah.
They went to $3.50 an item, $3, between $3 and $4 an item was their. You cannot get JSA lower than that.
No,
because they have costs as well associated with their product. So, and it can scale higher than that, but that's the bottom price you can get. So also that factors into the cost of an item that has been authenticated. Okay, why are we saying this? Well, what Dana discovered, and it was really as a result of somebody mouthing off about how cheaply they can sell Flair for online, is that you've discovered a range of JSA authenticated, JSA witness authenticated Ric Flairs that are all fake.
Yeah. They are all fake. I know what somebody is probably thinking right now. Well, how do you know? How do you know it's fake beyond, the simple economics of it all? That it would have to be fake, or you'd have the dumbest person in the world just selling them at like half of cost willingly. But how do we know it's fake, Sean?
Well, okay. So this is the part that I know people were challenging, or people were poking fun. But the more you look at autographs, and you have to really look at them, you'll notice that yes, there are variations, and yes, there are inconsistencies, but there are certain hallmarks that are pretty consistent across the board, that certain signers, demonstrate. But here's the truth. There are certain things that forgers get wrong that they repeat across their forgeries. So if you can identify a forger's error, right, then you can identify that error appearing over and over and over again in the forged items. That's the key to identifying forgeries. Granted that there's let me rephrase. That's the key to identifying large scale forgeries. Small scale forgeries, sure, you get you'll whatever, you want to practice someone's signature 1,000 times, you might have a different tell than a large scale forger. But we've noticed that you can see it's kind of like the classic example is Mickey Mantle, right? So Mickey Mantle has a very iconic, very famous signature, but there's also a very famously forged version of Mickey Mantle. They call it the Banana M's. You've seen this?
Yeah.
So Mickey Mantle's, if you see Mickey Mantle has a certain like swoop to the bottom of his M's, but there's a particular look to the way Mickey Mantle does it, and a particular forger who signed thousands and thousands and thousands of mantles. His M's, the bottom of his M's look like bananas, and so they call them Banana M's, and the Banana Mantle. And so if you see a Banana Mantle, you'll know it's forged. Now, Banana Mantles, because they're so commonly forged, and it's such a common knowledge in the sports autograph world, no serious authenticator is going to authenticate a Banana Mantle. It's not possible. But what's true is wrestling is and has always been kind of the redheaded stepchild of the sports autograph world. It's not, it for the longest time hasn't been taken very seriously by the authenticators, because up until very recently there was no real value in it. And so now we're in a situation where all of a sudden wrestling stuff has value, and the authenticators aren't really that trained. They're not sophisticated in the wrestling stuff. But in the case of these flares, it's even more egregious because these are JSA witness certifications, which means we're dealing with one of two scenarios happening here. There are these certificates are being issued. They're duplicated from a fraudulent. In other words, there was a real signing, and there have been duplicate certificates and stickers issued from a fraudulent signing. By the way, I don't think that's what's happening here. What I do think what we have happening here is an either unethical or a problematic JSA witness authenticator. Now, JSA witness authenticators they're independent contractors. They're not employees of JSA. They are people who are given a roll of stickers. They're basically trusted, and they collect commission. They're paid by commission. They get hired to do witnessing. They pay JSA a cut of their commission. They keep the rest of the commission. That's how it works. And so it is there is a range of Ric Flair autographs. It was a signing in Ohio. Or was claimed to be in Ohio, and I'm of the belief that even though there is evidence that a signing in Ohio occurred at this time, there is significant evidence that many of the signatures that bear the witness sticker from this signing were not signed by Ric Flair.
Yeah, and those clusters go WB450. There's other fake ones out, and I will be making a photo dump on the Marked Out Collectibles Facebook group after this episode goes live, because otherwise it would have no context, really. I think let your eyes be the judge. They don't look right. They do not look right. I was prepared to come on and explain why they didn't look right, but you explained to me a very true point about why we shouldn't, which I think you should explain to the listeners.
So authenticators typically do not, unless it's a major issue like Banana Mantles, typically don't want to reveal what the telltale errors of a forger are, because if you reveal what those telltale forger errors are, they can correct them. And so the next batch, they'll get them, they'll improve their forgeries. I actually sent you the other day a fake Hulk Hogan that I couldn't spot any errors, but they looked really good. And the only reason I knew it was forged is because of the source. And that's really scary.
It is. And just to wrap up the Ric Flair thing, what it comes down to, and I think collectors and vendors are guilty of the same basic thing, although there's some variation, in my opinion. Everyone wants a bargain. Everyone wants, Tom Brady's $2,000. Ooh, this guy's selling it for $200. This is a steal. I'm going to buy this one. You have to understand that if a price is too good to be true, it almost certainly is. There will be instances where you're going to find something that someone doesn't know what they have, but that's few and far between. You walk into any thrift store in the country, anything, period. Everyone has eBay. Everyone knows how to search and see what value is. People are not going to sell something for $30 that you can't get wholesale that low. I don't care if you are Ryan Fitterman's childhood best friend. He's probably not going low enough for this to be profitable. That's just not a thing that's happening. Fitterman is the agent. Fitterman is the retailer. They are both things. I've worked with Fitterman for a while. I like Fitterman. People have bashed Fitterman for years. I've defended Fitterman. I'm not bashing Fitterman here by acting like anything. Like, oh, he's greedy. No, he's a businessman. He's being smart with it. People are not getting Ric Flair's cheap enough. You'd have to pay $10 each to pay the $5 or whatever for JSA, the shippers, the mailers, all of that. It's not happening. If you bought a Ric Flair for $35 to $40, check your authentication number. If it's in the WP450 range, it is of our belief and a lot of other beliefs out there that you bought a fake. So by all means, go after who you bought it from and just be aware. And the thing that's even more scary, and like you said with the Hogans, although with the Flairs, they're bad and you should be able to recognize them if you have knowledge. The people, I guarantee you, if you go through the sold Facebook listings, a lot of which I'll be posting, Facebook vendors bought, I'm sure, a large amount of those. We've heard and seen different Facebook vendors, that they've been selling them on lives and on auctions. And I mean, one guy, as I said, the guy from a few weeks ago was bragging to me about it. He was bragging about selling. I mean, yeah, silly me for going and getting our Flair product directly from Fitterman and Flair. I mean, I could probably get a much better price buying them from the Toyota Camry in the Costco parking lot. I mean, I'm sure that dude's got much better prices, but I like to sell real stuff. So just don't fall victim to things being too cheap. And listen, if you choose to still think, well, sticker means it's real, it's got to be real, and that we're all just nuts and lying, and we don't know the secret knock to get the $10 pricing. I mean, at that point, knock yourself out. But don't. This is what I think it is, and just be aware.
And the crazy piece of it, again, these are JSA witness. These are not. And there's something particularly insidious about a witness graph being forged. But look, the same thing happened with the fake. I'm going to get the guy's name wrong again. The Gandalf. Oh, God.
Ian McClellan.
Ian McClellan. Thank you. I can't believe I did this again. The fake Ian McClellans. The fake Ian McClellan, where there were Beckett witness stickers on these. In some ways, I would try, and this is going to be kind of going against logic, but in some ways, an authentication sticker is more trustworthy than a witness sticker, because a witness sticker, you're relying on the attestation of a single witness. An authentication sticker, you're relying on a comparison of the signature to exemplars.
Yeah. I made that point to a couple people privately, that I think it's going to get to a point where the witness stickers are less ironclad than the real ones. And let's be real, the real ones aren't necessarily like the regular authentication stickers. They got some holes in them, because the average, if you go to JSA for a show special and you slip a stack of, let's say you go to a show where Ric Flair is appearing and you drop 50 Ric Flairs from one of your favorite fake retailers out there, those would probably receive. They don't typically do JSA Witness at the table for show specials. Those are just the regular JSA stickers. So there's nothing that can't be broken by just unethical behavior and just a desire to rip people off. There's always going to be a way. The criminal is always going to catch up and then surpass the safeguards, and then that's just the cat and mouse game. There are ways I think we can fix it, but we'll get into that after we finish discussing the other half of this.
So again, we recommend that if you have a Ric Flair with a JSA Witness with WB450 as your JSA Witness sticker, there is a very good chance that these are fake. I mean, go on eBay now and start looking at these auctions. Some of them are finished, some of them are still active. They're all in the 30. Most of them are in the $35 to $40 range. From a variety of sellers. Many of these sellers are actually in the Ohio area or the Western Pennsylvania area, where this signing supposedly took place. I'm very curious as to what happened here.
Yeah, and here's the deal. I've been going crazy for like the last couple of weeks trying to find the actual pipeline for these, and I haven't been successful. I suspect this is something that was more low tech. I think this was something in the Ohio, Western Pennsylvania area where these guys kind of divvied up their stock. And, I have 50, you have whatever. And I think it was like that. I don't think you're really going to find like auctions or anything of like the source like you do with what we're going to talk about next. So I think this was low tech, but definitely WB450 is not good.
And I think we ought to reach out to JSA and try and figure out who the witness was here.
Yes, JSA, and I'll tell you what I'm also going to do. I'm going to text a bunch of this to my JSA rep on Monday, which is today because the episode drops today. But I want to try to get this. We got to get out in front of this. Which I mean, at this point, we're not even out in front of this. They've been bought and sold probably 1 million times over. But luckily, these stickers don't travel with footprint, and you have numbers. And if the WB450 could be the Ric Flair equivalent of the banana mantles, then at least there's some knowledge, and the savvy collector that educates themselves can know what to avoid. And I hope that we can do more, with JSA and Fitterman to try to stop this from happening in the future.
So the second prong, the second thing we'll talk about are the Beckett stickered China autographs. Now, you may be wondering why we're calling them China autographs, because, frankly, you may have some of these and have never sent a nickel to China. Yeah. And we'll explain why by the end of this story. So first, there are China-based eBay accounts, and one of the telltale signs of these eBay accounts is they have ludicrous names that do not make any sense. So, for example, the one we've been looking at, again, by the time this episode airs, the name of this account may change because they change it all the time. But the name of the account that we're looking at is R2U0B0O3NT. But again,
that screams reputable. Oh my God, yeah, I want to buy from
this. This is not a company. It's a random string of letters and numbers. Many of these, this account just sells autographs, and the autographs are all Beckett stickered. Now they're not witness stickered; they're regular Beckett authentication stickered. And if you type these sticker numbers in, many of them do come back to real items. However, all of these items are fake. 100% of them are fake.
Absolutely, and this is one of those things. This is scarier than the Flair stuff. Because, I mean, if you're listening to this and you believe us and you understand the logic and science of this, WB450, I avoid that. Beautiful. That takes you away from a large percentage of those fake Flairs. You are somewhat safe. But these, there's no chain of numbers that you could sort of highlight. These are, if you know the game and you know what the signature should look like the Tom Hanks, for example, they don't look great, but I mean, they're close enough where if you are a novice collector and you see them, then, you would say, well, it's stickered. It's got a Beckett sticker. I trust Beckett, and this is great. Okay. And you buy it. But
just to be clear, these Beckett stickers are, they're forgeries. The stickers themselves are forgeries. So not only is the autograph a forgery, but the sticker is a forgery. In the previous story, the JSA stickers, we believe those are authentic JSA witness stickers that have been improperly applied by a basically a thieving JSA witness. This is a little bit different. This is an actually like a counterfeit. That's the word I'm looking for. These are counterfeit Beckett stickers.
So if I am a listener right now, explain to me why I can't just avoid this R2U0B0O3NT account and just I don't buy from them and I'm safe, right?
Here's where it gets particularly insidious. Many people who are buying and selling on Facebook groups, okay? So groups like Autographs 247, Autographs 101, a lot of vendors like we do. We have our own marketplace. There are other marketplaces out there that are for the buying and selling of autographs. A lot of vendors who are people who have reputable names or historically have had reasonably reputable names have gone and sourced large quantities of autographs through these China vendors on eBay and are laundering these forgeries through their reputable Facebook accounts, and because they're stickered, are selling them to the public. So we've encountered, plenty of posts on the mainstream autograph groups on Facebook that are sourcing their stuff. These are people who should know better. They're sourcing their stuff from eBay and they're selling it because they're selling it as stickered. People aren't really paying attention. People are allowing it to go through, and there's that, well, it has the sticker, what else can we do sort of mentality that's been a little bit pervasive here. And so basically the bottom line is very well-known Facebook vendors are laundering garbage through their accounts, and they're when they're being called out privately for this, they kind of throw up their hands and say, well, it's stickered. How am I supposed to know that it's fake? So I want to address that piece of it. If it's stickered, how do you know that it's fake?
Well, you should know by the source, the price, all of those things, that you're not getting legit stickered Tom Hanks pieces from China for $40 or $35.
It's not happening.
Number
one, the odds of there being a legit stickered Tom Hanks being sold on eBay via China is very close to zero. Okay, that's the first piece of it. But then the second piece is it's being sold for $30, $40. Obviously, these are not real. These are flooding the market. This is like Temu versions of your stuff that you see being sold elsewhere. They're counterfeit versions. And the most frustrating thing is there are people who are using the argument, well, it's stickered. How am I supposed to know? You know.
Yeah.
You know. If you're getting it for $30 on eBay from China, you know. You may be lying to yourself. You may be lying to other people, but you absolutely know that they're not real because you can't get things. You can't get real things for $30 from China like that. It's not available. It's not offered.
Yeah. And let me make this clear. As I agree with you, they absolutely know. I think it's the culture that we discussed. And it's the culture where people are just not, I don't want to, what's the point? I'm not going to call this out. And that we went 42 episodes with light call-outs. We really didn't go really knocking a lot of dust off of these scandals. We kind of just let it be. And now we're not. And they know 100% what they're doing. They know it's not real. They are just going to dance and hide behind the whole idea that, oh, well, it's stickered. And let's be clear. There are some of these people, a lot of the people that are doing this, a lot of these well-known Facebook vendors, what they really boil down to, and this is a thing where I think we're going to get into this in an upcoming episode to really break them down. Vendor is not always the right term. It's almost more of like a reseller, where they're not necessarily dealing with talent direct and they kind of just buy their stuff all over the place. And there are some that do it the right way. So I don't want to make a blanket statement that you should avoid all resellers, because there's some out there that I'm sure do it correctly, and there's a lot that don't. And that's really what it comes down to. And I made this comment on Friday, and I want to echo this again. I liked what we did on Friday, where we sort of posted the stuff as it sold. So then when one of our lovely, lovely Facebook vendors out there decides to sell it, we already are, the community is expecting it. Like, I am going to continue doing that. I want to let people know we are definitely going to come up with some sort of a reward system. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but there's going to be something. I want to put a bounty on all of these pieces. Make no mistake. If you are selling fake autographs, I am coming to fuck your money up. I'm not going to just sit here and watch you buy a Tom Hanks for $30 and then sell a fake Tom Hanks to someone for $150. And here's the deal. If people out there think, well, I think Tom Hanks signs in China all the time and these are real, buy them from China. Go to that site and buy them for $30. Don't buy them from Facebook vendor number 4 for 5 times the price. That's ridiculous. If you want to buy fake autographs, at least get a good deal on them. You're getting ripped off on fake autographs. So
to be very clear, we have evidence now of people who we know you on Facebook who have purchased things from these China sites and who have laundered them through their Facebook lives and through their Facebook auctions. You will be named in the coming weeks. Okay, there are screenshots. There's evidence that you did this.
Yeah, and for the bounty, let's say that people out there don't necessarily want to make enemies because, I mean, listen, you might get an invitation to a barbecue one of these years from one of these vendors. It's possible, right? I mean, friendships are formed from the Facebook vendors. Our group has an anonymous feature. I don't approve a lot on our group. I don't. It's mainly just, people that I trust, good customers, good friends, good associates. If you post an anonymous screenshot calling someone out for selling one of these fakes, it will be approved. And like I said, we will come up with some sort of an incentive program. This is a bounty. We want to know who's selling it. We want to out them. We want to be able to laugh at them. We want people to avoid them. There's a lot of good vendors out there. It's time that we shine a light on the good ones, and it's time that we shine a light on the bad ones, so people can spend their hard-earned money. And this is not a tool to make people spend money with us. Spend money with K&S. Spend money with Highspot. Spend money with the vendors out there that are sourcing their own stuff. Buy a great original Funhouse metallic. Buy all the different stuff out there that is legit. Also buy from us, but it's not just that's not the only point. So yeah, this is the start of it. And I know there's a lot more to say about this, and we will get into this as the weeks unfold. You have to understand we're both being Serpico here, exposing something while handling con season. This is a lot. There's a lot going on. Yeah.
What's funny about this is, a big reason why this is important. Look, we are not going to stop the flood of China autographs. The counterfeits will only get better. The quality of the counterfeits will only get better. The ways that they overcome the TPA security measures will only get better. We can't stop them.
No.
Law enforcement has to stop them. We can't stop them. Who we can stop are the people who we socialize with, who we know are ripping people off. We know there are people who are acting all innocent. They're putting their stuff online, and they're pretending like they don't know what's going on.
Yeah, they know exactly what's going on, and I just want to close this whole thing off for just a little bit to chew on. This hit me yesterday. We live in a time where people are quicker to call out the selling of dead autographs too soon after they die. Authentic autographs. Vendors like Ken are getting raked over the coals when he tries to sell a Sid or Kevin Sullivan or what have you, because it's too soon. The body is still warm, damn it. But then you're selling dead and living autographs from China that are fake, and we're silent on that. Let's bully the authentic vendors for selling someone too soon, being totally insensitive, while leaving the great Facebook vendors in their bedrooms with their nice little live feeds selling garbage. Let's protect them because, they're being respectful of the dead, I guess. I don't know. Doesn't make sense. It better.
So what's coming up for us? Fan Expo Philly is we're bought and paid for. Everything's locked in, ready to go. I'm very excited.
Well, I'm not. I still haven't bought my tickets, but I'm going to, I think, later after my wedding barbecue thing that I got.
All right. I've decided to take the plunge and go to the Kelsey Grammer book signing. So now I just have to decide if I want to grab an extra item to get signed. So the way that worked out was the great Mike Simon, old school WWF from Marked Out. He ended up buying 2 books to the signing, and one of them is for a friend, and he offered me the chance to take that second book through and get it signed for them, so I can go without paying. That is sealed the deal on why I'm going to go.
Well, seals the deal. That's like Stan Hansen back in 2008 for Ira.
That's a reference from the past. And then finally, you are a complete lunatic, and you were on the fence about buying the John Cena thing that I bought for Fan Expo.
Well, the listeners didn't even hear that. I went into a very dark place while you were on that cruise ship. Oh my God, we forgot that one part of the story where you sent me out in the twilight of the evening to the police station in Brentwood to buy your item. You actually settled on your item.
We did. We'll tell it next week. Let's talk about Ace Cube.
In all that stuff, I was getting crazy. I'm like, oh crap, maybe I should get something really sick signed by Cena. And I actually added it to my cart. And with fees, it was expensive. I've met Cena like a bunch of times. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. And the reason I said I wasn't going to do it is, and I actually told my wife this, I'm like, I didn't even do the Ice Cube meet and greet a few months ago when he did the basketball thing. And he was only a little bit more than this. How ridiculous would it be for me to do Cena for the 4th time? And as the combo gods would have it, Ice Cube is touring in September and October, promoting, luckily, his new album's not bad, but he's doing a full tour with like all his songs. And he was doing a meet and greet. And you already know, but guess what I did?
I mean, you bought the meet and greet. That's we were debating this.
You know,
what's funny is you're like, you ask me while I'm on the cruise, like, do you want to buy the meet and greet too? And I'm like, well, my ceiling is 500. So if it's more than 500, I don't want it. So
was it more than 500?
Substantially more than 500.
I may or may not have dropped 13 and change on an Ice Cube meet and greet.
So yeah, I mean that's well beyond what I was willing to pay. I mean, look, God bless. It comes with an autographed vinyl.
Autographed vinyl, of course. I'm not going to make the mistake I made with Carmelo because I actually had the ability to run out to Target. I won't here, so I will buy a second vinyl, in case he's doing any merch. He probably won't be, but he might be. So what I think my plan is, I'm going to buy it at one of our local record stores, perhaps Looney Tunes. This is the first monthly plug I've given them in at least a month. And I'll probably keep it sealed. And I'll try to not be number 1 on the line. And if I see him hitting it, I'll rip it open and get it signed. If he's not, I'll keep it sealed and just return it because I really don't need it. I don't even have a record player.
That's the way to go.
And just for the record, for all our listeners out there, what I said about the price is that's just between us. Like, if someone makes some stupid comment on my Facebook post how I spent that much money on it, I will delete it because I don't need my relatives. My relatives know I've got issues, but I mean, I don't need them knowing that. So
exactly, there's certain things you don't blow up in public.
Yeah, exactly. That's just between us.
So if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com, our eBay store at markedoutcollectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. And we do have a couple signings to announce, so we've announced these already. They're all available for purchase on markedoutcollectibles.com.
Except for Emily J. Her listing is still coming.
All right. So we do have, and we'll be seeing all of these people at PWJ Damaged Goods 2 at in what part of New Jersey is it again?
Ridgefield Park at the Mecca.
Ridgefield Park, New Jersey at the Mecca. That's right, on July 27th. So feel free to visit our table again at that time. But we'll be seeing Zeta Steele, Marcus Mathers, Jackson Drake, Smiley Kylie Ray, and Emily J. So a handful of those are our WWE ID folks who we're seeing for the second time. Smiley Kylie's brand new for us. And so we're excited to work with all of them.
And let me just say, because now we can finally talk about it. I designed a bunch of I designed a bunch of new Jackson Drake edits. And I designed these months ago. Like, we've had these printed for months, and we haven't been able to talk about it because we weren't able to announce it yet. These are some of my absolute favorite edits I've ever done. I know you printed an oversized one. I have oversized ones for the PC. Like, they are sick. when Jackson Drake is the like blue chip like star that I know he is going to be, these are going to be like, honestly, some of these oversized ones that we have for sale, I think I'm going to like hold. I think I actually want to throw them in a time capsule. I don't know about you, but I don't even want to sell them now. Like that's for 5 years from now. But in any case, you're going.
No, they're sick. There's no other way to say it. They're sick.
But I'm very excited for that. All those guys and girls we're seeing again or for the first time are all, excellent people, excellent talents, and just check out what we got. Get your orders in. We got months fly in con season. So April to July seems like forever, but believe me, it won't be. So,
and now I guess we'll leave you guys with a little teaser. We plan to have we haven't had a vendor table at a con since PWJ Damaged Goods, and before that, it was a minute. We plan to have a table with talent at WrestleCon in East Rutherford in August. Until we actually pay for that table, until we if it's not official yet. But the talent is booked, so until we pay for that table, we will not announce it yet. But do you want to give a little teaser as to what people can expect at WrestleCon?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I texted the talent this weekend. Let's just say the boys are ready.
So, that's all we're gonna say for now, and I hope we can get that all firmed up and the I's dotted and the T's crossed so that we can make that announcement as soon as possible. But we're very excited for that little teaser announcement for WrestleCon. So for markedout.com, Marked Out Collectibles, and Marked Out Radio, I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And we'll see you next week where we unveil more con artists and scammers in our hobby.